I happen to believe you're always 2 wrong decisions away from failing, right? So the company was literally bankrupt every quarter. 100 to 200-300 employees basically overnight. And as a founder, I need to reinvent myself every 2 or 3 years.
Lui è Christian Ecker, CEO e cofondatore di Trade Republic, una fintech e una banca tedesca dal valore di 5 miliardi di euro all'ultima valutazione. E ora sarà anche di più perché sono cresciuti un sacco nell'ultimo anno. Infatti solo negli ultimi 18 mesi hanno distribuito sui conti delle persone più di 1 miliardo di euro in interessi. E inoltre nel loro board hanno tra i più importanti e celebri investitori della Silicon Valley. Come sapete faccio queste interviste con il principale scopo di diventare io stesso un imprenditore migliore. E Trade Republic, che ormai è un mio sponsor da 1 anno e mezzo, mi ha permesso di scambiare 4 chiacchiere con il fondatore e fondamentalmente rubare una consulenza su come essere un CEO migliore. Avevo già chiacchierato velocemente con lui lo scorso anno quando ho fatto un video dedicato all'azienda. Vedetelo se ve lo siete perso. Però questa volta ho avuto l'occasione di chiedere un sacco di cose in più, sia sulla sua vita sia su come è cambiata l'azienda nell'ultimo anno.
Yes, we move very fast and things change quite a lot quarter by quarter. Today we are a full bank. Just behind us is the full banking license on the wall, and we extended our business to go from just investing towards now being a bank with a checking account, interest offering and a card offering. And that obviously creates a lot of new functions, new people, new customers, new markets, and that's very exciting.
Nell'ultimo anno quindi sono cresciuto di brutto. Così ho chiesto quale fosse ulteriormente la strategia di crescita.
I mean, we're a fintech now with more than 4 million customers, 35 billion of assets. I think the initial product market fit we have shown. As a founder now is the question, what's the next phase of growth? And you've seen many fintech answering this question with new markets. To United States, maybe Southern America, maybe Asia. And for Trade Republic, that's actually not the answer. So as you know, our mission is the pension gap. So we believe that every European has too little pension from the state and needs to save for themselves. Instead of now going to new markets, we want to go very deep into the most significant markets. So the goal of Trade Republic is in 2025 that we are tax easy in the majority of markets and that we are having a local IBAN and local payment method, right? And that's the idea for Italy as well. But it actually required now 2 years of preparatory work and infrastructure and licenses for that.
Yeah, that's hard. Some countries have a lot of regulations.
Insomma, la strategia di Trade Republic adesso è rimanere un'Europa e piuttosto che continuare a espandersi in Asia o in America, offrire il miglior servizio possibile a tutti quanti i cittadini in Europa. Infatti, secondo Christian c'è ancora moltissimo da fare e c'è la possibilità di avere una Trade Republic da 10 miliardi in ogni paese europeo, dove il patrimonio medio in realtà è alto, però gli investimenti sono ancora bassi.
Europe is a very rich continent with a very high GDP per capita, yet people are not investing. So I happen to believe that in almost every European market, you can create a $10 billion company by yourself just in investing. So in Italy, France, Germany, you can go very deep and create very valuable companies. And that's our goal actually for the next years to come.
Bene, quindi l'app è cambiato un sacco in questo anno. Inoltre sappiamo che il 2023 l'hanno chiuso in profitto, cioè nonostante i costi bassi hanno guadagnato di più di quello che hanno speso. Per cui vediamo bene qual è il loro business model.
I think we started with this idea of commission-free investing. So there's actually not a big cost for the customer. Per trade we earn €1. And then on top of this we have a revenue share with the exchanges. So when you do a trade on Trade Republic, we give it to an exchange and the exchange gives us a few cents back for the trade. And on top of that, if you invest into an ETF, for example, we do get some money back from BlackRock. So that's all 3 revenue streams. All of them are very small, but obviously in a larger scale, they aggregate. And I think the benefit of Trade Republic is not the revenue side, because every bank gets this money. The benefit is that the underlying cost and the automatization of the business is so much superior that we can only work with these revenue streams. Many people when we launched have thought that it's a joke, a marketing gag, financed by stupid VC money, then it would go away. And now 5 years later we can say that we've proven it works. So Trade Republic has now a profitable year 2023. I can tell you already that 2024 is going to be profitable and materially profitable, like millions of profits. And so that validates the business model.
In poche parole, le commissioni ad €1, il revenue share con gli exchange o le commissioni di BlackRock non sono un business model migliore delle altre banche, solo che Trade Republic, grazie alla tecnologia, ha dei costi minori rispetto alle banche tradizionali e per questo non deve estrarre troppo valore dai servizi che offre, andando comunque in profitto. Spesso quando le fintech offrono commissioni così basse, lo fanno in perdita con i soldi dei VC per aumentare il numero di utenti. Beh, in questo momento non è quello che sta facendo Trade Republic, che appunto fa profitti.
You said you have little costs compared to bank because of technology, you're a tech company, but what are the costs that you have?
Mainly actually people. So next to marketing spend, the largest cost center we have is just the people around. We're very proud of the fact that we're operating a full bank in 17 European markets with only 600 people. If you look to other fintechs, they have a couple of thousand employees. So we're quite lean. But then we pay these people quite well and we make sure that we've got the best and the brightest working on this and that we're still very efficient when it comes to doing decisions, low hierarchy. So between me and an intern is only 3 levels.
What kind of people? How many are R&D? How many on technology? How many on sales or regulations?
We're 600 people. I think almost half of it work in the so-called product organization, which means product managers and engineers, right? So that's the core of the business and the people who create the future. Then as a bank, you obviously need to have compliance, risk management, fraud departments, right? And so we got these people, and then the rest is just marketing. Yes.
Yeah, sales and marketing.
Come mi ha insegnato Benny Spunz, le persone, dopo il business, sono la seconda cosa più importante e, specialmente per un'azienda che cresce in fretta, è essenziale assumere executive capaci, una cosa molto difficile.
How do you hire a person that is close to you, a very senior person?
I always tell people that we get so many applications and they're so good, I wouldn't have hired myself, right? We get like the best and the brightest, young, driven people with great CVs, great experience, and we're very privileged to choose then these people. And we have a very rigorous interviewing process. So whenever we have new people starting, I tell them that they can be a tiny bit proud of themselves, because I do believe it's as hard to go into Trade Republic as in Goldman Sachs or McKinsey. Now, when it comes to senior executives, that's the hardest part, I need to admit. I hired myself over 30 or 40 senior executives, and not all of them worked out. I think by now we tend to hire more young, growing executives, so usually first-time doers. These people who have done it 2 or 3 times before in the past as a big company like, I don't know, Netflix or Airbnb, they somehow don't succeed as much as people who are actually very hungry of doing the job and are young. I mean, let's be honest, how American companies are driving great organizations is by hiring fast and firing fast. Something which in Europe is not possible.
Here you can't fire fast, so it's very important to be right at the first try.
Quindi, se le aziende americane crescono con il motto assumi in fretta e licenzia in fretta, in Europa e in Italia specialmente non si può licenziare così a piacimento. Per cui è importante in realtà essere molto attenti alle assunzioni, motivo per cui le selezioni in Trade Republic sono molto toste e il loro periodo di prova è importantissimo.
Today I'm very proud of the fact that we basically see the probation period as an extended interview. So we move every 5th employee out within the probation period, right? Because we think that this is the best proxy of future success. If you're great in your success in your probation period and you basically make it through that gate, I can give you a very honest promise that I'm here for the long run.
For people, past performance actually can predict future performance.
Parlando ancora di persone, mi piace sempre sapere il parere sul lavoro da remoto, che, sebbene io lo adori, ormai è chiaro che non sia adatto in molti casi e molti imprenditori che intervisto non lo preferiscono.
What do you think about that?
I genuinely believe that you do the best work if you're together, right? I enjoy a lot the context, the feelings, the emotions of being in a room, right? Initially, before the pandemic, Trade Republic had no home office. Like, it was like 0. Today, it's flexible, so we have no requirement of being in the office. I see that basically we are fulfilling our targets, even outperforming our targets. The people are doing a tremendous job. I think the statement of never changing running system is quite true when it comes to this. But I think if we ask where the world's going to be in 10 years, I would say that we're going to see more and more shift back into the office, but I have no rush for Trade Republic in doing so. For me, it's either full flexibility or 100% in the office. And then I mean 5 days a week. I don't think that in between really works.
Quindi in Trade Republic le persone possono fare come preferiscono, ma è chiaro che Christian preferisca lavorare fisicamente insieme. Però la libertà è importante. Infatti una cosa che ho capito è che per trattenere i talenti migliori, i soldi sono solamente una parte dell'incentivo. Il resto lo fa la cultura aziendale, l'aria che si respira. Per cui ho chiesto cosa fa Trade Republic per migliorare la cultura aziendale.
How did you manage to create a culture, and what is the culture that you have here?
We twice a year celebrate something we call Mission Day. So something where the entire company comes together in a big cinema here in Berlin, and we talk about the progress we make on our mission, the new products which come, and at the end we have a nice party. Last Christmas Mission Day, just a year ago, we had a small event at the very end where we would basically get the employees who are more than 5 years with the company. And I think it was over 10 people who've been since the very beginning, since the early days of Trade Republic, still here today. And we get a t-shirt which would say, I made 5 years at Trade Republic, and all I got was this shitty t-shirt. We showed some old photos like how it was just us against the world. And the majority of early people just still with the company. And why? I think first and foremost because we just try to really be mission driven. So I think people enjoy working with something which is a tiny bit bigger than the day-to-day job, and that we're obviously consecutively progressing in doing so. And then B, because we try to give people perspectives for their own career, really try to have this personal relationship with people. I think the more people you have who are like 3-4 years with the company, the stronger your culture is, right? Because you got then this really authentic believers into what you're building, and they spread it around. It's infectious in the company.
Quindi più si cresce, più aiuta per la cultura aziendale avere persone che hanno passato tanto tempo in azienda. Detto ciò, da questi racconti può sembrare che ormai Trade Republic sia un'azienda che ha terminato la sua lotta per la sopravvivenza, che funziona e ora è tutto rose e fiori. In realtà però Christian ci tiene a ribadire che sono ancora tutti quanti in trincea e che non c'è ancora niente da festeggiare.
We want to create one of the most significant financial institutions in Europe, and we're nowhere close in achieving that goal.
In the trenches.
So I feel every morning really the urge of waking up early and are pushing hard, and we have still this kind of sense of urgency and this drive. And I can tell you it never gets easy.
You're not scared the company's gonna die, right?
Well, no, I happen to believe you're always 2 wrong decisions away from failing. So actually it is like this, right? I mean, right now we're growing very fast. Right now we are creating new product categories. Right now we're bringing bringing in much more people from Italy, from Spain, from France into what we're doing. And that's great. And we've outperformed many competitors. But I do see no single reason why somebody else in the next building would not work as hard as we and then overtake us. So you need to be incredibly humble and incredibly honest to yourself that you just need to really push and build great products for the people, and then they will be happy customers.
Have you ever been close to failure though?
I mean, when have we not been close to failure, right? I mean, the history of Trade Republic is a bit of a different one. Right? So as we talked last time, we started in 2015. The idea of bringing investing to people in Europe was quite controversial. So 4.5 years, we would not get any money, right? So the company was literally bankrupt every quarter. We got the license, we got the customers, it went a tiny bit up. And then 1 year in, we raised our Series B round with Peter Thiel. COVID came. While the company was ballooning in size, we got GameStop, which was a crucible moment. We got outages in trading, regulators up our neck. So that was to navigate. And we went in the company from 100 to 300 employees basically overnight. And that's a test for the culture. And then we were just used to hypergrowth, spending a lot of money. All of a sudden, the horrible war broke out in Ukraine. Inflation went up. The mood was changing. And then Trade Republic did a funding round. We restructured the teams. We parted ways with some people. We had a brutal drive to profitability. And that was another very, very, very crucial moment. I can tell you just today, we are in a very tricky phase because you have now proven that what you're doing is working, is profitable, and then you want to grow faster. And so now it's about scaling, moving faster, spending more money, maybe being at some point unprofitable again, but doing this healthy. So not doing the mistakes of hypergrowth. I can tell everybody outside that every time has its challenges, every time needs its master. And as a founder, I need to reinvent myself every 2 or 3 years. It's really like this. There's no such thing as a steady state.
Insomma, Trade Republic ha attraversato un sacco di fasi, ognuna di queste con le sue sfide da risolvere. E anche adesso è un'azienda sempre in movimento, sempre con nuove sfide. Ed è così che riescono sempre a offrire un prodotto di qualità. Infatti Trade Republic supporta il mio canale da un sacco di tempo e io stesso lo uso per i miei investimenti, è veramente molto comodo. Tutti i miei investimenti in ETF li faccio su Trade Republic. E inoltre tengo anche una bella liquidità per ottenere gli interessi sulla liquidità non investita. Se volete sapere tutti i dettagli ho fatto una recensione completa sull'app. Ci sono però delle novità. Infatti oltre alla carta che io utilizzo in viaggio per avere il safe back sui miei piani di accumulo, adesso potete anche fare dei regali ai vostri amici, regalando ai vostri amici direttamente un po' di ETF. Insomma, per invitarli a investire. Potrebbe essere un ottimo regalo di Natale. Vi lascio tutto quanto in descrizione. Tornando a Christian, come mi ha detto ci sono sempre un sacco di difficoltà e un supporto per navigare queste difficoltà sono gli investitori. Infatti Trade Republic tra gli investitori ha delle persone fantastiche, tra cui Peter Thiel di Founders Fund, Doug Leone di Sequoia Capital, insomma i migliori investitori della Silicon Valley. E avere queste persone nel board è fondamentale non tanto per i soldi ma per i consigli che ti possono dare. Anzi, devo ringraziare Christian per avermi permesso di fare il video insieme a Founders Fund. È lui che ci ha messo in contatto.
So after the initial 4 years of getting no investors, we are now very privileged to work with one of the most iconic investors in Silicon Valley. Founders Fund and Keith Rabois, one of the founders of PayPal, who's a very vocal figure on Twitter, for example. We got Doug Leone, the co-founder and CEO of Sequoia on our board. He's not on many boards, just I think Nubank, Trade Republic, right? His time is very scarce. And we got other great investors like, for example, Ontario Teachers Pension Plan, one of the biggest pension funds on earth. I think by now we could create promise and deliver track record. So we would always go to the board meeting and promise something, and then actually after 2-3 quarters it would be delivered. And that creates a lot of trust and belief in this relationship. And then again, I spend a lot of time navigating the board. So I drive the board meetings with a zero surprise policy. So whenever there's something, people beforehand get a one-on-one, we try to get them context, and so there's no surprises. And then we still invest a lot of time into the preparation, into the data, into the details of the meetings, so they're well prepared. I think I really enjoy working with this board, and they have been incredibly helpful in navigating through some of the crucial moments we've seen in the past. Hiring executives is a hard task, helping a lot. Firing executives is a hard task. How do you communicate restructuring in the company? How do you navigate fundraisings with new investors? And how do you deal with regulators? Those are all small things where we're very privileged to work with people who have seen that in the past. And then again, I think if you look through our cap table, we've never chosen the investor with the highest valuation. We've always tried to choose the most uncomfortable investor. I mean, you've met Doug. He's a great person, but he's an uncomfortable person. I can tell you the tension is up when he goes into the room. He pushes you. He calls you Sunday morning 6 a.m. and asks you about numbers, and he wants you to build the most valuable company you can build. And I think that's something which drives me a lot into decisions.
A questo punto ho chiesto a Christian, come CEO, quali fossero le lezioni che ha imparato personalmente navigando queste difficoltà con il supporto degli investitori.
So there's millions of lessons you learn, right? I wouldn't say I learned it all. I think every day I do mistakes, brutal mistakes, costly mistakes, and acknowledging them, accepting them, and then fixing them. I think that's maybe a strength you learn over the years. I can quote somebody I met in the past, and I think that was one of the best advices I've gotten. Never believe your own bullshit. You go on stage and you say, Trade Republic is obviously the best company it can be, and everything is so great, and we're going to build this multi-billion-dollar company. But the truth is, you have 1,000 problems, right? And you need to be very intellectually honest about what's not working. So never get high on your own success, never get really comfortable. You're always 2 bad decisions away of failing. And I think this kind of humbleness, intellectual honesty to yourself is something I learned over the years, which helps us still today to be motivated and hungry in navigating these decisions.
Ok, insomma, la lezione è sempre quella, cioè che sì, l'azienda sta crescendo, ma bisogna sempre farsi il culo. Detto ciò, con il crescere dell'azienda cresce anche un'altra cosa, cioè il patrimonio di Christian, che sebbene è liquido, infatti l'azienda non è quotata, sulla carta lo rende sempre più ricco. Ed è in questi casi che alcuni fondatori di startup fanno una cosa che si chiama secondario, cioè dato che non possono vendere le loro azioni sul mercato azionario perché ancora la loro azienda non è quotata, fanno dei round di secondario dove vendono un pezzettino delle proprie quote a degli investitori. Me l'hanno raccontato per esempio i ragazzi di Benny Spoons, che hanno fatto alcuni giri di secondario per permettere ai dipendenti di monetizzare quella porzione di quote che stavano maturando. Per i fondatori come Christian fare almeno un po' di secondario penso che sia utile, in modo da evitare di lavorare tantissimo senza mai vedere neanche un euro liquido.
Would you advise to founders that see their company grow so fast, but maybe they're not liquid, it will be everything at once? Do you suggest to wait for that moment or think about selling a little bit of secondaries?
So I'm a big believer in put your money where your mouth is. Skin in the game. And I really, since day one, believe that Trade Republic can be a very big company and can be maybe a European equivalent of Charles Schwab or Fidelity.
Quindi da un lato Christian dice no, meglio non fare secondario, specialmente se credi che la tua azienda cambierà il mondo. E su questo sono d'accordo, non è un buon segno vedere che il fondatore vende le proprie quote. D'altro canto è saggio, anche se sei al 100% convinto sulla tua azienda, di vendere un pezzettino il meno possibile di secondario, quanto basta per essere economicamente sicuro e non vivere con l'ansia. E poi magari investire questi soldi in maniera tradizionale.
And then again, I think I can recommend to founders what we recommend to customers. It's very, very hard to beat the market. So eventually I think going into ETFs, going into broadly diversified, having a no-thrill policy towards your own money is always a good advisor. Because as a founder, you have a lot of risk and a lot of adrenaline in the day-to-day. So eventually your personal money should just be diversified, long-term invested, a security net. And that I think is best capped with an ETF and a savings plan over time.
So you do that, your liquidity is on ETF.
I basically have 3 ETFs and 11 shares of Borussia Dortmund, the football club from Western Germany. I think they played against Milan a couple of times recently. Horrible investment.
Yeah, of course, it does it from the heart.
Yeah, exactly. It's an emotional dividend. Yes, you get.
Insomma, mi sembra chiaro che Christian, come la maggior parte dei founder, sia investito principalmente nella propria azienda, Trade Republic. La sua liquidità invece è investita in maniera tradizionale in ETF.
My upside is in Trade Republic and I'm a big believer that it's the upside I can really influence and control. And apart from this, I want a security net, right? I grew up in very simple surroundings in Western Germany, in a rural town. I don't need much to be happy. Actually, just preserving the money, keeping it together and then grow over time, that's good for me.
Tornando alla vita da CEO, Christian mi ha ricordato la differenza tra individual contributor e manager, un concetto che ho già spiegato qualche volta. L'individual contributor è uno che fa effettivamente le cose, il manager invece è uno che gestisce i team che fanno le cose, oppure gestisce altri manager. Bene, in Trade Republic tutti, compreso il CEO, devono essere il più possibile individual contributor, cioè IC, e il meno possibile manager.
We love to propagate the archetype of people who are successful in Trade Republic, and we call this the super IC. So the word manager is actually forbidden. I don't want managers managing managers. It's a waste of time. We want super ICs. Even if you wear a fancy C title, you need to be a super IC. What does it mean? It's super individual contributor. So even as the marketing leader, I want you to go to the Figma file and correct the copy of the campaign, approve it. I want you to do the budget forecast yourself in the Excel and send it to me so I know what you're calculating. And then again, you will find me, CEO, being a super IC. On a Saturday morning, I will open up your Excel model, I will check the formula, I will reconcile the numbers, and I will ask you very detailed questions about certain things. And so what do I actually do? A very rhythmic week. Monday morning, I spent with my executive team 2-3 hours, really focused on what's up for the week, driving decisions, driving priorities, shifting maybe priorities. Then all Tuesday, the entire company runs business reviews. So basically all product teams are coming into 30 minutes into one room. And then we go through the weekly progress, do it week by week. And then we go through product flows, marketing campaigns, commercials, mostly with me in the room. And then decisions are done on the spot. Then a good advice I've gotten from some of our investors is you want to keep one day free for emergencies. That's my Wednesday. So Wednesday is always like completely free.
But it's
right?
never free.
And then Thursday, Friday goes on with other meetings, right? And so that goes on every week, creates a certain predictability, certain rhythm. And because you drive it week by week, very intense with a maniacal sense of urgency, you see this culture going through the organization. And I think that's something which we established now over years is very fruitful. If you come to these meetings, you're better prepared. You want to audit the Figma file, you want to audit the process, you want to order even the consistency of copy because I'm going to figure it out. And I think over time that creates a really great focus on details and a good speed of decision making.
Insomma, Christian è bello organizzato e ogni settimana riesce a seguire ogni team dell'azienda.
Okay, are there any entrepreneurs, people that really inspires you?
Of course, I mean, I think over the years I was in a privileged position of meeting a lot of great founders, a lot of great people in industries or society. And you can even go into sports. I mean, you've seen a Liverpool former Dortmund coach, Jürgen Klopp. I think what I admire, for example, about him is how he motivates a team. It's not really about the tactics, it's really about the personal drive, the energy, right? And that's something I think as a CEO of a small startup, you can learn a lot from.
Yeah, you see that and you say, I should do the same with my team.
And it's tougher in a business context, but still, right? And then you meet people like Brian Chesky, who I think has done a 180-degree turn with an Airbnb, and how he drives no decisions. That's a very big privilege.
Founder mode,
for example, yeah.
You are in founder mode.
Oh, hopefully, maybe we try.
You never left founder mode. Books that you recommend, especially for aspiring business owners?
I usually don't like business books or non-fictional books because I think they just sell you old wine. But I think this biography of Nike for Phil Knight, Shoe Dog, is great because it lets you admire the journey of being a CEO, of building a great company, and admire that really struggle and hustle. Because at the end of all days, he sits in his chair, 70 whatever, founded $1 billion company, and then he basically says in the last page of the book, I would give away all my money to redo the first 10 years. The struggle, the hardship, the fighting with my early employees, right? Every year we get together in the executive team for Christmas party, and I read this last page to them, and I tell them basically, when the last customer's onboarded, IPO the company for a magnificent amount of money. We're not going to enjoy the money, we're not going to enjoy the success of the amount of customers, but we're going to regret the first 5 years, the first 10 years. I will never come back again, because I think that's what it's about. If you're here on the ground in the battlefield, people who are enjoying it. And so I think that book gave that feeling to me.
You also read nonfiction?
Yes, I don't want to brag envy to my Italian audience, but one of my really favorite books is Gattopardo, Il Gattopardo from Lampedusa, because it tells a similar story. It tells somebody, I think it's even a prince of German descent, growing up in Sicily during the Risorgimento, avid change, and it's a time of where he's achieving a lot personally, but basically what matters to him the most are the relationships to the people, are the dramas, are the small visits in the village. And I think that's something, when you're so much in the day-to-day stress, you read this book and you say, oh my God, life is beautiful, and you should enjoy it more. And it's beautifully written. I read it I think 5 or 6 years ago, and I read it since twice, so it's really one of my favorites.
Christian è esattamente come vorrei che fossero tutte le mie interviste, dritte al punto, no bullshit, no consigli di vita astratti, ma mi ha detto praticamente quello che fa, come lo fa, e io ho preso appunti perché sicuramente alcune cose me le porterò a casa. Date un'occhiata anche agli altri video che ho fatto con Trade Republic e anche alla playlist dove intervisto gli imprenditori in generale. Ci sono un sacco di lezioni che si possono imparare, e ricordate di andare in descrizione per tutte le info su Trade Republic. Ciao!